pattern readers. This is going to be my breakdown and discussion of the first official trailer for The Wheel of Time Season 2. That's right, the first one. Based on a press release put out at the same time, we can expect weekly asset drops between now and September 1st, and it looks like one of those will be another trailer, and we already have so much awesome material to dig into right here. Real quick, for anyone following the WGA and SAG-AFTRA strikes, I want to say that I fully support the writers and actors. They deserve to be paid fairly for their work, their demands are reasonable, and I hope this gets to a fair and swift resolution. Although the union members as well as contracted influencers are barred from doing promotion, fans are not, and I plan to continue talking about the show because the support being asked for from the public is to continue to watch shows and movies to show the demand is there, especially on streaming services, to talk about support for the strikes, and if possible to donate to the Entertainment Community Fund, which I am linking in the description. To be especially clear about my goal here, to support a creative endeavor I care about, I am turning off ads on this video and any additional videos I put out as long as the strike lasts. The amount of ad revenue I get is negligible, but to make it perfectly clear that I am first and last a fan and not someone who in any way makes a living off of talking about the Wheel of Time. No one is asking me to make videos. I do it because I love the Wheel of Time. You should expect a number of spoilers in this video for Book 2 of The Wheel of Time, The Great Hunt, as well as some spoilers for Book 3, The Dragon Reborn. If you haven't read through Book 3, I recommend stopping this video and tuning back in for a spoiler-free video I plan to put out before the Season 2 premiere. We start off with a shot of Moiraine. She's wearing a new formal outfit, not something she would be wearing for travel. She's wearing the jewel in her hair, her Kessiera, which we've only seen her wear in the White Tower, and the robe-like style of her dress I believe is going to turn out to be from her native Cairhien. In fact, she appears to be in Cairhien in this shot, more specifically in the foregate of her native city, an area known for poverty and for raucous behavior not usually seen in the staid city itself. She seems to be looking around. I would guess she's looking for Rand. We get an overhead shot of Tar Valon, dominated by the White Tower. They seem to lean into showing it as a location in several shots of this trailer, maybe just because it looks cool, or maybe to remind us it is going to be an even more significant location this season. Next, we have a shot of Moiraine's hand in bathwater, and in contrast to the bath scene from Season 1, Episode 1, Moiraine is unable to channel to warm the water. She also appears to be alone and has tears in her eyes. Her voiceover says, "Everyone has a choice, and every choice has a consequence." We know that Moiraine made a choice to seek out the Dragon Reborn and aid him, and so far that choice has cost her her ability to channel, at least temporarily. Over a shot behind Rand, standing to overlook a barren landscape, her voiceover continues, "We didn't defeat the Dark One, we set him free." Rand's fancier dark blue coat appears to have a rising sun of Cairhien embroidered on the back. From the front, it may be made of velvet and has some brocade trim. I assume he must acquire this in the middle of the season in Cairhien, so this shot would take place perhaps in the second half of the season. There are a lot of shots like this of Rand standing straight and facing forward. I don't think that will mean he has fully accepted his role yet, but it shows a steadfast intention. We have a quick shot of Moiraine in the dark holding a knife. I assume we see her having to face Shadow Spawn while being unable to channel. I've adjusted the brightness on this a little. It is a very dark shot. Then a fade shrieks. I've adjusted this one similarly as well. In this shot of Ishamael, he is smiling at someone we can't see, and then he suddenly disintegrates. I thought it might be insects he was breaking into, but the video description provided by the Wheel of Time account said it was dust. Either way, it would seem this is happening in the world of dreams, so maybe this is Rand he is talking to. Egwene is wearing white in this shot of her channeling, so she's probably still a novice in the White Tower, although we later see she is still wearing white after she has left. This is the first shot of channeling we have in the trailer, and as we will notice in all the other shots as well, the weaves now have different colors to represent the different elements: earth, fire, water, and air. Presumably spirit as well, but I'm going to assume that might remain white. It looks to have a hint of green in this shot, although it could be yellow. It is clearer in some shots than others. There's a good deal of Liandrin in this trailer, starting with this first shot of her in a darker red outfit. It seems pretty clear they are increasing her importance, and I'm happy about that considering they are investing and adding layers to her character. I love the darker color being used to symbolize her true allegiance, which will probably be revealed this season. This next shot is certainly what we in the fandom usually call the Dark Friends Social, or the prologue of The Great Hunt, where dark friends meet in secret and are given instructions by Baal-Zaman. There are 12 hooded people around a table in a room with multiple fireplaces, and of course, Ishamael is standing. There is an empty chair, but it seems like that might belong to this short woman, who is kneeling or standing before Ishi. Some people thought she looked like a child. However, WhatSeries.com has confirmed the casting of Rachel Denning, who is 4 foot 1 inches, and it's quite likely this is her. We can only really speculate on most of these, but I would guess Padan Fain is here, sitting next to a white cloak, maybe the show version of Bors. This bright red dress could be a red sister, but it doesn't seem like Leandrin's style. Nynaeve appears to be in the White Tower kitchen when she says to Alana Sedai, "No one should have that much power." She looks worried. Maybe she is simply struggling with becoming a Tower initiate and potentially an Aes Sedai when she has so much distrust of the sisters. We have a shot of Ishi channeling. Circles of the power shoot around him and the weaves appear green, so I think he is channeling Earth. I think he is going to be channeling to break another seal on the Dark One's prison, and this will be what allows him to free one or more of the other Forsaken. His face is pointed up, eyes closed until they pop open. Again, I've brightened these shots and the next ones a little. In these next shots, a woman dripping in blood with long hair stands up and stretches her hand out. In a previous teaser, we saw this hand grip a man's, which appears to be a Shamael. So I think most of us are assuming this is Ishi waking Lanfear up. It will be interesting to see if other Forsaken are already awake. So far, we only have confirmation of these two in Season 2. But there could be more. I think the channeling to break a seal thing makes sense as long as it's not a 1-to-1. One seal per Forsaken. That's too literal, and some of these seals need to be held back and unbroken for a while. But Ishi wouldn't know where all of them are, and maybe once enough of them are weakened and broken, the rest of the crew will be free with no further intervention. We have 2 Damani channeling at night, Sul'dam behind them, and they seem to be blasting the party of Shinarans with air. This is the first of many shots of the Shan-Chan in this trailer, though we have seen them in previous teasers. This seems to be part of subduing a village that we are going to see more shots of later. Here, Ingtar, Missima, and Uno go flying, and Perrin also takes a blast. We know from other shots that Loyal is also with this group at this time. Here we have an ornate golden-colored wheel mechanism to open a door. Cut to the other side of the door, and Nynaeve is entering the testing chamber where she will be raised to the Accepted. As we can see, she is in her novice dress here. We get our first glimpse of the archway ter'angreal that is used for the testing. Behind Nynaeve, from right to left, are Leandrin, Lyanna, and another Aes Sedai who is most likely Shiriam, the mistress of novices. In the Nynaeve voiceover, she says, "Together we face the impossible, but now in our separate corners of the world," and we start cutting to what her friends are up to. We have a wide shot of the hunters for the horn, close in on the horses running, and then a close-up of Perrin. I could not believe we got so many shots of Selene and Rand. Here they are embracing. He is in rough clothing, so I think this is early in the season. She is in finer blue. I believe she will be calling herself Selene here, but that the Selene persona will be a bit different than it was in The Great Hunt. They kept the same actress who has been cast as Lanfear, rather than casting someone younger, so I don't think the Selene persona will be a girl. Despite that, she clearly seems to be allowing him to be protective of her here, so there is that similarity. I think this blue color will be used for Kyrian, as we see in other shots, so I think she will still pretend to be Kyrianan. I couldn't help but notice how similar she looks to Moiraine. I expect once we see her revealed as Lanfear, we will get the white and silver and a noticeable change in hair and makeup. Rand is walking down a hallway with light coming through windows. There was a figure in blue at the end of the hall, again maybe a Kyrianan color. He seems to have that cat crosses the courtyard like swagger, and he is wearing an outfit that is not as ornate as when he meets the Amyrlin later, but still an outfit I think he acquires in Kyrian. His face almost looks like he is seeking the void. There's something almost dreamlike about this, and I'm not sure how to place this, except it's the same outfit we see him in with Logain later. We have a shot of Dragonmount and Tarvalon at night, and it's storming. It's a beautiful shot. Moiraine is on horseback, riding fast at night. Something seems to be pursuing her because she looks back over her shoulder. We hear her saying to someone, protecting Rand, guiding him. That is the only thing that matters. There's a shot of Lan and then Moiraine. I think they are facing each other in these shots because we can see the same kind of candelabra in both, and in the shot of Moiraine, Lan's sword is hazy in the foreground. Moiraine is dressed formally, so it seems like Lan is trying to remind her of something and she's rejecting whatever it is because she only cares about guiding and protecting Rand. Then we cut to Siuan, and we know from other shots in this trailer that she is on the Amyrlin seat. However, it is probably in the Sun Palace of Kyrian. Siuan is saying, "You can't control him." We don't know to whom, but I personally believe she is talking to Moiraine about Rand, and we are going to get some similar scenes that we had in the beginning of the Great Hunt in Fel Dara, except they're being moved to Kyrian more in the middle of the season. It's interesting that even though Siuan is dressed very ornately, that she isn't wearing anything that has the 7 stripes to represent her station, so maybe that is something only usually worn in the Hall of the Tower. Rand is channeling orange weaves which represent fire. He is in a room with slatted windows. My guess is this is in the Kyrianan Foregate. He looks up in wonder and horror at his own weaves. Another huge surprise to me was getting to see Perrin with Hopper. We see the wolf looking at Perrin and hear a voice saying, "You know you have something inside you, something that calls for blood." And then it cuts to Perrin's eyes changing to golden. I love the look of his golden eyes. I assume the voice is that of Hopper, and that is how they are going to do wolf communication, simply a human-sounding voice that Perrin hears when he sees a wolf. I'd love it if they could work in some flashes of images as well, but I guess we'll have to see if that is practical. Here's another shock. Rand channeling and grabbing Moiraine by the throat. A voice says, "Kill them all." Maybe that's just strategic editing to up the tension in the trailer. It would be extremely disturbing if this ends up being a voice that Rand hears. I wonder if he is really so triggered by something Moiraine said or did, or if he loses touch with what is happening for a moment. I could see him maybe waking from a dream of Ba'alzamon and not realizing he is awake and she is there at first. That would give Moiraine a real reason to fear his mental state without it being too much of an escalation. Speaking of things that are going to emotionally wreck me, here is Egwene looking devastated, red-eyed, and bloody in a Damani collar. Her material this season is going to be so good and so horrible all at the same time. We have another shot from Nynaeve's accepted test, and here she is bloody and looking in horror at her own right hand. I thought at first this might be a vision from within the test because the chamber looks so similar to the pool scenes from season 1. But after double checking the shape of the openings in the ceiling, they do not match, and this is her in the testing chamber itself. We have a shot of the ruby-encrusted dagger on an ornate table, and Mat in a chair looking down at it and pulling back. It's interesting that he is not restricted from touching it apparently, but he is resisting. I wonder, would anyone actually offer it to him in this way, either before or after he goes through a complete severing of his link to it? I guess I could see Liandrin doing it maybe, but I also wonder if it could be a dream. The fireplace behind him also suggests a possible Ba'alzamon dream. I've put a lot of thought into this next shot of Lanfear behind Rand with weaves of fire swirling around him. The first thought is that this is her encouraging him to channel, as she does in The Great Hunt. However, it is hard to be sure because it is nighttime, but I don't necessarily think I see threads of black for the corruption on Saidin here. There could be subtle ones, or it could just be gaps in the weaves in the dark background, which if I'm right, this could actually be Saidar and she is channeling around him. I don't think she would necessarily want to let him know she is channeling, but if these are waves of fire, would he not feel heat? What do you think? It's a great image because of the way she seems to be controlling or possessing him either way. Rand says, "I want to know how to control it," and we cut to him talking to Logain. They appear to be in a walled garden. Logain looks empty-eyed and has a bowl in his hand. I absolutely love that Rand is going to get to talk to Logain. I happen to think they are in Cairhien based on their clothing, which I think has similarities to the outfit Moiraine wears in the first shot. Moiraine's voiceover says, "The last battle's coming." And we have a shot of the Shan-Chan capturing people in a village. There is a huge palanquin with Surath on top, many servants and soldiers, Damani and Suldam. We can see Uno sprawled on the ground, and make out Perrin to the left side and Loial just behind him. No, I don't want to hear that Uno could be dead. Stop it. Cut to a close-up of Lady Surath snapping her long nails. We know from an official tweet the character's name will at least initially be Lady Surath, so maybe she does something to get raised to High Lady at some point. Cut to a close-up on Surath, her Sojin Alwyn, and Ishamael, who has clearly made himself some sort of advisor to the Shan-Chan Forerunners. We switch to High Lord Turok, who watches the horn case open. I don't think this exoskeleton-like costume could be more ornate, and I really feel like they nailed the insect-like helmets in the background. We have a close-up on the Horn of Valir itself, and then Turok again, where we get a better look at his facial tattoos, and he says the whole world will be ours. He has a much more subtle accent than I think some fans might have been expecting, but I'm not bothered by that. It was always going to be risky not making the Shan-Chan sound ridiculous. Also notice his earpiece. I liked this theory from White Tower Owl that it is meant to symbolically protect him from unworthy voices. We have a few shots at this sort of tropical looking location. A Damani with Suldam behind her shoots a fireball. The weaves are so tight around her forearms, which is a nice visual indicator that she isn't ultimately the one in control of her own weaves. We see the fireball shooting towards the backs of Egwene and Elaine and then hitting the ground. Egwene, furious, fights back by making a shield to protect Elaine. Egwene almost looks like this is no effort for her, which shows how far she has come. This seems to be the same location where we have seen this waygate before, and it seems like it will be the one the Wonder Girls use when they arrive near Falma. In this next shot, Nynaeve screams and weaves shoot out of her, in a pattern we have seen from her before. She's wearing rough clothing and is in a village location at night, so this seems like it could be a scene from her testing. This shot of riders on horseback charging through a dust storm is hard to make out, but I thought it was White Cloaks, and the official video description confirms this. I'm guessing they are near Falma. I love the mystery of this shot of Liandrin in the tower, where we have seen Aes Sedai rings being melted after the Aes Sedai's death. Is she holding out a ring? Why would she be doing this? For a fellow Red Sister? Or is she hiding evidence? Here's another of the most intriguing shots. A young girl laughing as she runs with a toy sword. Some people seem to think the child could be a vision of Nynaeve and Lan's daughter because of the toy sword, something Nynaeve might see in a testing vision. However, Perrin is clearly in the same shot, running along behind her, also laughing. So I think this is a vision for him instead. Maybe a wolf dream or a flicker vision. Maybe a possible reality in which Layla lived and they had a child. I love the idea that they might use something like this to explore his feelings about Layla. Moiraine kisses Swan, and they are both in blue. This is certainly a flashback from the lack of tattoos on Swan's arm. There's so much they can do with flashbacks for these two, given their history, and I can't wait. Next, a tearful Egwene embraces Nynaeve in the tower. The most noteworthy thing here is that Nynaeve is wearing her Two Rivers garb, not a dress of a tower initiate. So is this before she agrees to wear novice white? Or does she get back into her own clothes again at some point? Or could it even be a testing vision? We're back with Nynaeve in the testing chamber. Lyanna channels at the ter'angreal, and again, the other Aes Sedai behind her is probably Shiriam. Egwene's voiceover says, "If our friends are in trouble, why would I ever stay here?" She seems to be talking to Nynaeve, but then we cut to Elaine looking sad. Moiraine storms out of a building into the night. I can't really find an architectural style that we have seen that matches this, so I will be curious to see where this ends up being. Her voiceover says, "You have no conception of the power they wield," and cut to a different scene of her at night. I'm guessing this is related to other shots we have seen of her at night where she has to pull her dagger. I'm operating under the assumption she is saying that line to Lan, another shot of Lan on Mandarb in the daytime looking shocked, and then another shot of him saying to Moiraine, "You can't do this by yourself." We get our first good shot of Aviendha in character, and she is veiling herself, and Perrin is looking on behind her. She fights several White Cloaks, and we can see that Rand's mother was not the only Aiel who can kick ass. I do think this is going to be similar to the Gaul and Perrin scene from The Dragon Reborn. Ayula Smart is really nailing the vibe of the character for me in this shot. This shot of Nynaeve sword training with two warders we have seen in a previous teaser. I think that is Maxim behind her, but I'm not sure who she is crossing swords with here. I've said it before, so I won't belabor it, but Nynaeve getting frustrated with trying to learn to channel and blowing off some steam with a sword is entirely in character, especially when she bonded with warders in Season 1. These shots of Lan fighting at night are very dark. I think there's going to need to be some correction in the final shots for the show. They didn't have any issues with this in Season 1, so I expect improvement. I'm pretty sure Lan is fighting a Fade here, but that's more a vibe than anything I can pull out from the shot itself. Plus, it just seems like something we will see in Season 2. We have another shot of Tarvalon at night, looking moody, and then this shot of Liandrin disguising herself and carrying a basket as she walks through the city. I assume she's headed to North Harbor, because that has been hinted at, but the real mystery is why. A voiceover says, "There are many paths to walk through the night." The voice sounds more like Rosamund Pike than Kate Fleetwood, though. Kate Fleetwood does do the voiceover over the next few shots. It's not always the most powerful who write history. We have Rand back in the room with the slatted windows. I think he is looking back at someone over his shoulder. One might assume Celine, but I can't forget that we have gotten this image of Min in a previous teaser, and my hope is that she and Rand reunite in Cairhien. Nynaeve stumbles out of the arch ter'angreal with wounds in her abdomen. Perrin fights a light-haired White Cloak, and dare I say, this might be where he actually kills a White Cloak. The question is this guy this light-haired White Cloak we saw in a previous teaser, or is it Jeffrey Bornhold from Season 1? I'm going with the new light-haired White Cloak because of this golden-colored cord we see under his collar. It matches the cord we see on him in this shot. Another devastating shot of Egwene screaming in her collar. I'm not ready. We have a quick shot of Rand strapped to the wheel. Any theories on what he is looking down at? Maybe he's just trying to figure out a way to get loose. Liandrin finishes the voiceover with a shot of her telling Egwene it's the ones who survive. There's a deadness in her eyes here. So I think that line that she gives may lean into some further backstory they're developing. Rand stands hooded in Falma. From the next few shots, we can glean that he is about to face High Lord Turok. Next, we have a wide shot where Rand is facing Shan-Chan soldiers inside fortress walls. And in the foreground, we can see the top of the canopy that is behind Turok in an upcoming shot. Rand's voiceover says, "I'm tired of being a spoke in the wheel." Turok draws his heron-marked sword with Old Tongue inscription. Then we have him brandishing dramatically as he prepares to fight along with his armed guards. Next, we pull back from a close-up of Rand, again bound to the wheel. It's a barren landscape in the middle of nowhere, and I still think it is a dream. But who or what is this facing Rand right here? I have to assume a Shamael or Lanfear is the one torturing Rand in this way. This silhouette certainly doesn't match anything we have seen from a Shamael. Could this be some sort of dream guise for Lanfear? Or maybe I'm on the wrong track. What do you think? Another very intriguing shot of a Fade being killed with a flaming sword. My first thought is that the flaming sword must be made of the One Power, something we see Rand do in the books. But this figure, who we can see here fighting the Fade, looks nothing like Rand. And what other Saidin user could this likely be? Another theory I saw from Takaranriyad is, what if this is what it looks like when a power-wrought weapon comes in contact with a Fade? I'm still not sure what I think about it. Next, we have Mat striking down at something. The official video description suggests this is a spear he is holding, so maybe he picked it up from an Aiel somehow, since that's not a weapon I'd expect him to have picked up in Tar Valon. I think it's likely he's escaping out of or breaking into somewhere, rather than this being a fight with a person. This cuts right into an explosion on a tower wall. The juxtaposition and the fact that Mat has something of an affinity for fireworks might suggest he had something to do with this, but we also have evidence that this might be part of the city wall in Cairhien, and I'm not too sure that Mat would even be in Cairhien this season, so maybe Rand is more to blame. Could this mean we are getting Illuminators? We hear Swan telling Rand, "You're not a spoke boy. You are the water that turns the wheel itself." The room they are in is probably in the Sun Palace, based on the rising sun motifs on the window and on the dais her Amyrlin's seat sits upon. I wonder if there's a travel version of the seat that Swan takes with her everywhere. While it's technically not true that Rand is the Dragon Reborn and Ta'Veren actually turns the Wheel of Time, at least based on book lore, it may just be a hyperbolic metaphor that Swan likes. Rand stares straight at her and tightens his jaw. I love that we are getting a version of the iconic scene from The Great Hunt where Rand faces the Amyrlin seat. I think that is pretty key to his development and significant for Swan as well. Also, hey, cool heron buckle, Rand. Overall, September 1st can't come fast enough. But until then, gird your loins, my friends.